Hi, Matthew. Jeff Allen here. I just saw your post about doing, your beginning of doing voiceovers and coming to your comments as a beginner, and you want to get some tips from those that have been kind of doing this for a long time. So I want to kind of give you some tips that I've been doing for 10 years on a number of different projects. And especially in COVID, that's where it really hit when you were really doing it and didn't have access to all the things. So I kind of get a explain this kind of developed and see the different types of equipment I use and the different techniques and all that. So I started doing voiceovers, I think, in about 2012 for some of our financial products at SAP. I had voiced that really well with it, and that grew to a point where I was doing a number of business intelligence and predictive analytics products too. And they started calling me the voice, the voice in the Paris office. So I was doing, maybe even up to 5 days a week. Um, and that turned into, and I was doing videos too. I was doing a number of videos. So I was kind of involved in doing video and voiceovers. And we have a voiceover service. We created the voiceover service in SAP globally. And I was part of that team. Everything was pretty much English voiceovers. We did some French and Spanish from time to time, but since the language of the company is English and the American dialect, American English dialect is the one that tends to be favored for both writing and pronunciation in general. That was part of that team. The so then that turned into about 2018. There was an opportunity to do a fellowship. Fellowship is an internal transfer for 6 months where you go work for another team to do a specific project or to work on something or to get to learn a new kind of trade or some kind of new kind of job role. But there's also to kind of deep dive. And so I decided to deep dive into the voiceover stuff for the teams I was working with because I was working with the user assistants or technical writing teams that were moving away from content writing of how-to documentation about how to use this feature, that feature in the software. It's a software company, and giving what's new video, what's new descriptions of what's new in the features and all that, and how to use them to video ones. So doing demos and all that stuff, and explaining the new features in a voiceover type thing with a list of points or even a talking head, a person that talks, right? So in 2018 there's an opportunity, so I went to go work with the team on a daily basis after doing dozens and dozens of their voiceovers for them and encountering a number of difficulties and showing them the difficulties. We got to work together for 6 months, 6 or 7 months in 2018. And what that opened up was doing some workshops with them how to improve the writing of the scripts because of the voiceover activities and doing all these voiceovers for them. So that's why I want to bring up a few of these examples you've given and a number of other tips that we came out of doing the 6 month fellowship project, and the things that I brought up during the workshops of how to improve and to make it so that they were more conversational. We're talking about making conversational user assistance document content. And that's so that was the make it more conversational, make it easier to understand, which means it's easier to pronounce it, right? So let me go through a few of these things, and I'll bring up some of these anecdotes as we're going here in an example. So you talked about start with a test recording. Always start with the test because that shows you where the errors are. You don't want to do a long one. I did a long one for like an HR video during HR, a training video, and like for people that are going being transferred to other countries. And it was a 3 hour thing, but I only had a professional. I'm a musician, so I had a musician's recorder, but I couldn't stop, so I had to do the whole recording, right? And that's really hard to do because your voice dries out. You can hear that it's getting hard and stuff. But I only had like 2 days, and then they have the software to. I had re-imaged or we scraped off my computer and I had to reinstall stuff, and I didn't have the Audacity at the time, so I went on to mess with installing it and all that. The recorder, right? Little recorder, professional recorder, and so that was really tough to do. A 3 hours recording. I've done a couple of those too, training courses. But in general, when you want to test out always to see the distance. And the interesting thing that we found about the distance, because I was doing things in different rooms, I was I would sometimes be getting the one of the top floors. We had this teleconference room with tables, but it was a large space, and I could actually put a music stand to hold the script, so I could stand up. Because the thing of doing is standing up changes everything. If you're sitting down, your diaphragm it's like singing. Your diaphragm is constricted. You're standing up, it's easier. And you actually, when you're standing up, you can do movements and make it feel like you're doing the script. You're just like theater, right? It's drama. And I'd be more enthused actually thinking about them when I'm talking about it, move my hands. And a bigger room, a larger room allows for that. Well, the thing I found in the larger room with the distance thing with the microphones is that you have different types of mics. And like we had little USB mics that go in the computer that they had clip-ons. You have to order those in clip-ons. And then it was kind of, you had to clip it onto the stand, clip it onto this, have it, and it got kind of confusing. Well, now what I've gone to is I got one of these, right? I got one of these polyphonic phone mics, right? It's a speaker and so it's going here, can hear that here, rather than have this, right? So, and that's the USB. On going even more, and I got to choose because I'm a musician, I bought what's known as a Focusrite, or one of that. It's an interface, audio interface that you plug into the USB into the computer, but then you can plug a normal microphone, like a musician's microphone, into that with an XLR to 3-prong. And then you get stereo, and you don't get all the, all the different peripheral noises and interference. So what I've got now, I don't have it here, but I've got a microphone, musicians with a small stand, a small tripod, and I can plug that into my interface, that little Focusrite or whatever, M Audio makes them too, and then I plug that into the computer, and that gets way better quality. And I can have a stand, right? I can have a microphone stand. It can be on a table, a small one, it can be a stand-up one. I can do whatever I want to do. So that's the kind of things. With that is a pop filter. One thing you want to get. You can have different types. Now, this is a unidirectional mic. It's one direction. It's going right in. You have to be close and do that. And microphones, a lot of singing microphones are said to be monodirectional too. Like you get like a Shure 58, which is the rock and roll, microphone. It's a monodirectional because it's you got to be close to it and really close to do it, right? If you get a condenser mic or kind of a unidirectional like this, I can be anywhere and you can hear me in the room, right? But you got to pick up all the ambient noise around it as well, and anything else. Like when you're speaking, we found in that big room is that there are tables, and the echo off the tables, the wood would echo. So it's better to be in a carpeted room, right? So here I'm in a kitchen. We got wood floors. We got a wood table. It's going to get some echo. If I'm in a carpeted area, and this is where you get to like insulated rooms for music studios and all stuff. If it's insulated with carpets or walls that are, have any type of insulation on them, it's going to reduce that echo. So that's some things that can affect it. You can really improve it. And one way to do that, and we did that during COVID, was to build these each of the voiceover people at home could build a kind of thing at home. We made a box. You can buy these too at IKEA. You can make a thing. And you just make a little cardboard box and you kind of insulate it, put a little microphone in it with a filter, pop filter. Pop filter is that little round disc that's got a little tissue in it, some screen. And that pop filter is what you're talking about, point 2. So I'm going through these points that are going. The pop filter is you said the click for click, or cliquer in French. What those are known as obstruents. The phonological or phonetic term for them is obstruents. We call them stops in English. And they're hard stops, which is sibilant or fricative stops. So the sounds that are stops or obstruents in French are m, p, b, t, d, okay, ch, j. Now there we're getting a fricative with it. K, g. Those are pretty much all that's where I'm going from a bilabial stop, okay, 2 lips, to alveodental. This is that to get your tongues touching your teeth. To then you're going to get the guttural. That's a guttural sound, and those are all sound. Those are all voiceless and voice stops. And then you got the sz, okay, sh. Those are going to get into some of the alveolar sibilants, or we call them fricatives. So all the hard stops I mentioned, they're going to create you're going to create that little breath, and that aspiration is known in phonetics. The way to get rid of that is to have a pop filter. Okay, so that's what singers usually have, a pop filter when they're singing, because they're going to deal with these hard stops. Okay, you don't get them so much with the sibilants, the fricatives, because you get the hissing sound, right? So it's a little bit different thing to do with. But the pop filter will help for a lot of that stuff. So that's the idea of the breathing noises, and that comes from phonetics. I'm a phonetician, so I'm a linguist. I'm a phonetician, so these are interesting from that point of view too. So one other thing that kind of is going to segue into the next point you're starting doing tasks, the recording for a full day, half a day, and all that. Devoting half day. So you want to be able to do it, be concentrated, because it depends on how long your voiceover is. I've done some voices over there as short as 10 phrases, but then as long as 3 hours of recording. Now you're going to do 10 hours of 3 hours of actual production use of the sentences, of the phrases, the utterances. But you're going to do 10 hours of recording you're going to pull out those basically the 3 hours. So you got to estimate they're going to have a lot of throwaway stuff as well, because you're going to restate things, which gets into the point of mispronouncing words regularly. And here you said it was being tired and it's time to call it a day. Actually, I found that that could be one factor, and I've had that when you do the long recordings and you get your voice, you can hear you're straining your voice and all that, your vocal cords and all that. But one of the things that impacts a lot of doing the voice recordings and the repronouncing things, and creating mispronunciation, is the consonant clusters. Now, I was doing it for a lot of different products, and I found that we discovered, and we came out with a workshop, so in this fellowship period, was helping the technical writers when they were writing the scripts, because these were people that were writing scripts that weren't really theater people. They were, technical writers. So they're used to writing for reading, right? Well, when you're writing for pronunciation to do voiceovers, it's a completely different approach than if you're writing to read a text. And for the user to read the text rather than to actually listen to it, right? So, and have someone actually pronounce it. So what I found was that a lot of the product names, company names, place names called named entities, those, especially product names that are newly invented words, were never pronounced, right? They were always written. No one ever pronounced them. And so they have these consonant clusters that are actually hard to pronounce. And they make it very difficult to take all the consonants and the vowels together and pronounce them in a large term. And you're saying this term several times, including the company name 5 times in a 2-minute video. That just gets so heavy, right? So a lot of the things that I worked with the team was teaching them how to actually pronounce the script as they're writing it up front, to hear that they're going to be hard to pronounce. And so to have them kind of rewrite it, because there would be times I actually brought them with me to the room where I was recording, and had them listen to it and have my attempts, and they would see I'm struggling with these sentences, and it was always around these named entities of product names, or these, and you're saying this long, the full company name, and you're saying this product feature 5 times, and it's a big term with a lot of words in it, have a lot of consonant clusters. That's what it came down to. So we were kind of trying to rework them. And that was the advantage of me working with the teams, is we could actually rewrite the script, right? Which is not always the case in the field of doing outsourced, voiceovers. You can't change the original script. That's the really hard part of it. But it was fun actually being involved in ones where we could change it. And if I felt that there were things where we were able to change, I'd say we need to change this because it's going to be just too hard to pronounce it, right? Um, to have something that sounds good. I'm not even talking about monotone versus kind of marketing videos and stuff. I don't want to get too much. We're at 15 minutes here, but so another couple factors found during the COVID period, and I was being involved with our CEO, and he was doing recordings, and why we're getting this echo in the room and stuff, and I'd help the communications people to know where to place the microphone. He was one of the examples, and this gets into like just doing making presentations, right? And the voiceover is the same problem. It's the same problem. So he was actually in a room. They want to make it look cool. It's a home, and he had the wooden floor, right? And had a big space behind. They had windows, and how this stuff. And I said, the problem you're getting this echo or this sound problem is that there's too much space in the room. It's wooden floors, and I said, what you need to do, which I had done it before, is put clothes racks behind him. Actually, put jackets and stuff to kind of, you need to soften the sound. Put even sheets over the coat racks to actually just create some kind of barrier for the sound to absorb, just like if you're in a music room, right? But that doesn't look very cool, right? So, but I've done this for creating, music studios, doing recordings where you just do something, you don't care how it looks, you just want it to be effective, right? Put a little carpet on the floor. If you got a wooden floor, put a little carpet on it, right? It's a quick carpet. And or just a rug, right? Put some rugs down just for the recording. Take them off afterwards. So those are things that will help you go into a wardrobe too, a closed wardrobe. Put your microphone in there. Put a stand-up microphone, a closed wardrobe. You're going to reduce all the echo. So that's a cheap way to do it. So there's lots of little tips like that. But just make sure that you don't have a lot of space. Like this is a bad, hear what I'm doing here. It's just working because I have this, the microphone here. It's okay, but you're going to get a lot of echo in this kind of room where you don't want to have that from a voice recording situation. Try to get away from USB pure things if you can. Try to go to like I said, a professional microphone. You don't have to get a €300 microphone like upstairs. Got one. It's a dynamic mic for doing choir singing stuff you don't need that, but the better quality, the more you put into investing in the type of microphone you're going to get, is going to be the better quality. So there's a lot of that stuff that if you're just using a €25, microphone head cap, kind of a headset microphone, it's going to be less quality. So anything you can get that's used for singing and all that for voiceovers would be better. And I tend to use Jabra. The company Jabra has some pretty decent stuff. This one has a Poly. The company's called Poly. It works. But I just go for like music microphones. Shure. They can't beat Shure and Sennheiser, two great ones, and just buy the good interface. So there's a lot of tips there. And hopefully that helps. It's almost 20 minutes, but there were a lot of things to say. And I actually, had made videos where it takes more to explain a lot, all the details and all this kind of stuff. But hopefully that helps. Let me know.